you afraid of making calls? Are you afraid of following up?
Hold on.
Hold
Which
up.
live am I on? Which live am I on, London? You see me from what? Jared Best Mitchell or Jay Best Mitchell?
Jared. J.
Are you sure? Wrong live.
Okay.
Good night, folks. Just now I went live on the wrong page on Instagram. Hold on. But we're talking about how to overcome call reluctance. So let me just jump in there. I can't set everything now, but we live. LinkedIn audience as usual. Tell us where you're from. Tell us if you're in sales, and also tell us, do you have a fear of making calls? Woo! That was a close one. But yeah, tonight is all about call reluctance. Where's our awesome head person? Are you ready? Let's go.
LinkedIn Live with Lyndon and Jared. If you are very afraid to do your call to Jared and Lyndon will help you. They will help you. All you need to do is just ask kind, guys. Just ask kind, okay? Just ask kind and Jared will then help you. Okay?
That is so true. That is so true. Just ask kind.
You just need to say, Jared or Linda, can you please help me record my call? Thank you. Like that. For example, that's not how to say it, but just say it nice for example. For example.
Thanks, Zoe. Bye. Love you. Okay. Love you.
Don't look at that.
Okay. Laters. That's right, folks. We're talking about call reluctance tonight. Evening, Roger, Rachel, Maurice, Gail, of course. You're on the right live, Gail. Yeah, I was on the wrong Instagram page. Sean, the boss, good night. So let's talk about this, Lyndon. Let's talk about the essence so people can understand what came in the backstory.
Yeah, I sent you the Instagram invite, right?
Oh, yes. Let me add Lyndon. Sorry about that, folks.
Just now.
Yeah. So here's the thing, folks. I come across a lot of sales professionals who have access to them, a lot of call databases, phone numbers, people's contact info, where they could reach out and offer them their products and services. And you know what these sales professionals do with the number, Lyndon?
Nothing.
Nothing. Nothing. And I know it's happening to a lot of y'all. Simo, good night. Omni Nails, good night. A lot of y'all are literally just holding on to potential customers. And we spoke about this in the last live. You're holding on to leads that you could turn into prospects and you're not converting them simply because you have a fear of making the call. So if you have a fear, hit us some hearts, hit us a thumbs up to let us know, or put a Y if you're on Instagram so we can understand, because we really want to get down to the essence of this. All right. Well, what is your perspective on this, Lyndon?
Yeah, I think it's a solid perspective. So let me take you back to my sales days. So I will say I do remember in my early days where I too was a little bit afraid of making that call. I wasn't sure what to say, which is one of the reasons. But yeah, I've
main
been there.
reason. Yep.
I have been there in terms of being reluctant to make the call. However, that database is your money, and you have to learn how to get through that database to get to your money.
Correct. So I fully agree there. So hold on, let's grab another pen because I didn't have it to add additional notes. So here's the first thing, folks. And we're diving deep into it quickly so that we could give you all the insights, right? So let us know, right? And by the way, be honest, let us know if you have call reluctance. Fiola King, good night. I met her. Andrea, good night. I met Fiola King tonight at later today actually at Starbucks.
Oh, okay.
And you know me, I always just like to talk different things in terms of content creation.
Good
But
night,
here's
Keegan.
the number one reason, right? A lot of persons don't make their calls, or they're reluctant to make the call because they don't know what to say. Lyndon just said it, right?
Yeah.
So how do you overcome that, Lyndon? Let's talk about it, because to me, I know there's an easy way to do it. How do you overcome call reluctance?
Yeah, I would definitely say that you have to, it really now comes from understanding what is the objective of the call. So sometimes just having that fear of, oh my God, what am I going to say to the customer? That is the first thing. So a call is supposed to have an objective, and that objective is towards you identifying if the customer, I mean, it could be on a couple objectives, right? So it could be if the customer is a good fit, if it is that they have an interest, if there's any way that you can help them solve their problems. And by you taking that first, and maybe want to say it like that, by you taking that first, changing that mindset about what that call is supposed to be and the fear of the unknown and turning it into something that is kind of tangible for you,
Yeah.
will help boost your confidence towards making those calls better.
So that there, folks, is the first thing I want you all to do if you have to get over it. My thing is, like, anytime I'm not sure about a call that I want to make, I write it down. And more importantly, I write down what's the outcome of the call. And as I said, it allows me to prepare better to say, okay, if I'm going to say this, actually, no, here's how I want you to do it. Write what's the purpose of making the call. Then attach that to your outcome. Once you attach that to your outcome, write everything in between. What are you going to say to open the conversation? What are you going to say if the customer might not say something that you want to hear? How are you going to push back if the customer might be saying something, depending on what the scenario is? But you have to actually prepare. And when you look at it, you'll be able to realize, oh, well, the conversation is actually not that bad, because it will either honestly go two ways. You always want to make sure it goes in your way, or it could sadly not go in the next direction, which might be negative. But if you prepare and you understand what the outcome might be, it makes you a little more comfortable to make the call. Right?
Can I say this too? That a lot of the time, so I'm going back to my days. So let's see how well we could connect with people. So I'm seeing Roger put something here on LinkedIn that I would want to read out. He said, so and this for the folks on LinkedIn, on Instagram too.
Yeah.
So Roger said,
pop it up on the screen.
Yeah, Roger said one of the things that drove his fear, right? Because this is when Roger was back in his days of sales too. When I was younger in sales, was shopping the pocket for that target, right? They may not be able to afford it, so you're discounting the value. So that's a solid point as well, right? So you're kind of discounting a customer real early, thinking that they can't afford it. So you kind of selling you outselling yourself from actually making that call, right? So
correct,
right? A big thing for me, back in my day was I sometimes had a problem. I second guessed. This might sound real stupid, but it's a reality. I second guessed how I would sound on the phone. So even if I was kind of practicing the calls for myself, it's like the kind of imposter syndrome kind of thing. I would say, oh God, nah, that's not the way I want to say it. So I will be so hesitant in terms of how I felt about making that call, thinking that I was talking crap, saying crap, that I never made the call. It's like people doing video and saying, I don't like the way my voice sounds.
And who told you that? Nobody. Hey, Pauline, good night. Hey, Marawara, good night. Candace Henry, good night. So let's talk about this, because I want to bring it up on the screen. Andrea Ragu's asking call scripts, and I'll say yes, call scripts, right? That is something that we talk about in terms of if you're prep. And it doesn't have to be anything official. Like, I go to I was at a client's office this week, and I literally wrote out what the call script was for their team. And that's why I still want to talk about the hesitance behind it. So here's the thing. What I want you all to do, if you're hesitant to make the call, is do it as I think Brian Tracy said from his famous book, and swallow the frog. Just get it done. And when I mean get it done, do the first call. And the thing is, I want you to be prepared for whether the call might go good or bad. And I mean good or bad in the sense of either you sound horrible or the customer tells you no.
Mm-hmm.
Keep those two anticipations in your mind. Say, don't feel heartbroken, because at a client, Linda, this true story. They have over 200 leads to follow up with.
Right.
Based on the closing ratio and what they sell, if they get 10%, it is excellent, because that is way more than what they need versus the product that they have to sell, because it's a high value product.
Right.
The person started the calls and they stopped, and I messaged them, why? How much calls you do? Not much. They didn't give me a figure. I say, why? Well, I didn't get the responses I wanted out of the call. And I was like, how many calls did you make? And they're like, 10. I was like, 10 is only 5% of what we're looking for. Remember, we are honestly trying to get 10. We have to go through this process.
Right.
Like, you cannot sit down on all those names or all those leads, because trust me, based on what your pipeline is, or even your worst cold calling ratio possible, you actually have a potential opportunity inside that pipeline.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I'm just saying. right?
So, I know Juma was asking about the my voice or the delivery, and I was just using that as an example, Juma, of how people feel about making video as opposed to making calls, because I know people second guess themselves. If it is that they're practicing, they will always second guess what they're saying as to whether they said it well
Yeah.
or not, you know. So I will say, so there are some pretty good ones coming up to.
Yeah, just reading Maurice Own for people here on IG. The sales script is a great way to prepare for a difficult conversation, and it helps you keep the conversation in your favor. Yes, and yes. Remember the good news I had today, Lyndon?
Yep.
I had like my pointers written out of what I wanted, the outcome, the focus, everything. It was done. So I'm happy. Like there was probably 2 things left out of the list of like 12, but I'm happy.
Yeah.
Right?
So sorry, go ahead. Finish your point.
No, I just reading Roger point as well. Scripts help me get comfortable too, especially when anchored with an open-ended questions. Allow me to uncover problems to solve. Questions also allowed me to stay in control. Yep.
Right. And I'll tell you what. And this is kind of bringing the answer or bringing the bringing the solution up early in this particular live, right? But by you having things like scripts or resources to help you make a call, right? It is not just a matter of being comfortable. It helps you build another C word. It's a big C word, confidence.
Yep.
So remember we spoke about the fear. So it's not just comfort, but it's confidence. And a couple of things that I've found, even when I do particular aspects of training, is that sometimes it's not like the guys and they don't know how to do it properly, you know. It's just that they don't have the confidence, right?
Yeah.
So another point I want to add into that. So like when you spoke just now about the person not getting the results that they want. So without the right amount of practice, so that's another one, you wouldn't be able to understand the value of a call. So I'll give you an example, right? Speaking to a sales rep, the sales rep is indicating that they did make a number of calls. I didn't even ask them the quantity, but they did make a number of calls. As well, give me an example as to what were some of the outcomes, because just like Jared said, this particular rep wasn't comfortable with the outcome. So the person said to me that, you know, there was one person that told them they don't use that service, they outsource it. So she felt that wasn't a good call. And I said to her, that was an excellent call. And she was like, but why? Because the person that I called, they don't use the service that I'm calling them for. I was like, yeah. So now you have to identify, you could now tell that person why it might be beneficial for them to use that, to show them why it might be better for them to use it directly than outsourcing it, because outsourcing it is an expense. So they can save their money if they can do it for themselves. And the person technically gave you a lead. So you could have asked the person, who was the person that's actually outsourcing it for you, because
and they could get additional lead. Yep.
So that was 2 things. But so my point with that is, it's not just a matter of how to make the call, but the practice, but also how to listen to certain things that's coming out of the call. Because when customers say certain things to us, there's always an answer behind the answer or a question behind the question, based upon whether they're asking you something or they're saying something to you. But if we do not practice how to make calls with the right pairs, or just practice it in real life, and then use our own brain as our replay, then we wouldn't understand how to pick up certain signals. So it's only until I told her, you just missed out on an opportunity to either actually sell that lady by telling her she could save money by doing it for herself and showing her how easy it is for her to do.
Yep.
And she got a new lead, and she could have just said, do you mind sharing that name because it might be beneficial for me to give them the stuff, because if they're using what I'm trying to offer to you, that could also be beneficial to you as well. You understand? So it's a matter of now listening while in the call to get the results that you're looking for. So so it's a part of doing it well. So practice is another thing, and actively listening to get the kind of results that you want to get.
So just to highlight one quick point here, this is because this is the other one we want to mention. Juma just brought it up. Juma, this is a combination of both. Not only do you have to have the confidence to make the call, but you have to actually detach yourself from the outcome. Like, if you understand in particular, you have to understand the outcome. Like, if you understand, for example, the outcome of the call, you have to actually detach yourself from the outcome. Like, if you understand in particular, you have to actually detach yourself from the outcome. that your goal when you're making the call is either to qualify the person, or even if you're doing a follow-up, is just to move that conversation to the next stage, which is decision or whatever it is. You still have to detach yourself from the outcome, because what a lot of persons don't realize, at the end of the day, the decisions customers make are never personal against you. It's just based on what they're doing, or just otherwise. And it's more directed to your company. So if you understand that outcome, like I have a difficult call to make tomorrow with a client. Like, I have that prepped in my mind. I've been saying it to myself all day. I have to write it out in the morning, because I don't want to write it in the heat of the moment. And I'm writing it out tomorrow so that I can actually make the conversation. So you always have to detach, and I'm okay with whatever outcome. I'm happy for one, but I'm okay with accepting. And I want to highlight Candace's great point as well. She says she has a whiteboard, so she places her tips to remember when making calls. Excellent. If you have a whiteboard, write down your 2, 3. Look, you see, 2, 3 pointers.
And this whiteboard is for my life tonight.
You see,
Yeah.
simple, right? And then let me just go through. Yeah. So Gail, yes, definitely, we endorse scripts. If you have a hesitation in making calls, scripts. And you will actually see how good you sound when you write it out, and it just kind of gives you that guide to continue the conversation.
Yeah.
Right?
So I also want to, if I could make this point too. So I spoke about practice there, right?
Mm-hmm.
In practicing any particular sales activity, and in this instance specifically calls, like for Jared and I to get to where we need to be, practicing making those calls was like lifting our dumbbells, doing reps every single day, right?
Yep.
And the more that we did those reps, you tend to find that what happens is that weight gets easier. So what is it that you do is that you try to make calls to maybe bigger clients, or in a different way. So you try switching up your style because you want to keep that tension on. That exercise metaphor example that I'm trying to use is the same thing for how we are supposed to practice our sales techniques, especially as it relates to making calls. Because another thing happens when you begin to make calls. I'm not sure if you all have ever done this, but by the time you hit 10 calls, you are actually in a groove. However, you made the first call is no longer the way you made the 10th call, and you realize that this particular call just flowing because you would have gone through that stuttering to start, and you've picked up a momentum. You have a particular cadence in terms of how you're making the calls, the things that you're saying. So you're just fluid. So again, practicing those things on a daily basis helps you avoid call reluctance, because you already understand what it is that you have to say. So you find yourself flowing really, really smooth.
Yep. And as I say, because I'm seeing it in the chat as well, once you have the right mindset towards making the calls, because let's put it this way, if you dread making the calls, it's highly unlikely that you're not going to make the calls. Right? Let's put it this way. It's like persons who want to lose weight, but you dread going to the gym. You're not going to go to the gym. You don't have the right mindset. And the mindset is more important than the actual motivation. Because you need that discipline to get into it.
You need the discipline.
So here's another one that might sound simple, but a lot of people don't do it. Right? If you want to do your calls, and this is something I see from a lot of people, you need to schedule it into your day. Mm-hmm. And it's a non-negotiable. Because for a lot of you, the reason why we're bringing up this topic is that if it is that it's not in your day, you tend to actually forget it and push it to the side, and you add more excuses. If it is that you have it scheduled and you commit it, you're more likely to start it. Mm-hmm. Right? Here's the other, and let me just drop in, hold on here. 2 other points that I didn't think of just jumped in my head. Hold on.
But I do agree with Jared when he speaks about the scheduling. That has to be a mantra. And when I say scheduling, we're not talking about doing a whole day perspective. I remember I made that mistake. Oh, go and do a whole day prospecting, boy.
Oh God,
did I ever do it? We've all done that. I have done that. I have said that to myself, set up myself mentally. I want to do a whole day perspective. That doesn't work. So put time blocks in your day. Even for me in my business now, I find sometimes I prospect better in the later part of my evening. I get my work done in the morning, and in the afternoon I will do follow-up calls, or I will do prospecting calls or emails.
Yes.
And that flows for me. So again, you figure out what works best for you.
I want to jump in, Roger. Point out. I appreciate all the insight tonight, Roger. So like he's asking, what do you think about physical positioning when making calls? He finds his energy is very different standing or walking around. Absolutely true. Yeah. However, I think that is for people who need the motivation to get the energy. Because for me, like I've done it when I'm doing coaching calls with my clients. I actually understand like how to direct my energy when doing a call. And I've honestly found that, especially when I'm explaining stuff to customers, sitting down to do the call actually allows me to slow down. So it varies. But if it is that you
Right.
find like I always tested if your energy is low, but I think Roger, in your case, it's a lot about the posture. And I think standing makes people upright. Your chest gets broader. You know, you're a little more like, to me, that's what I actually am when I'm doing the calls.
Yeah.
I love this one that Candace says. So Candace, here's the tip on this. Candace is asking, what about customers that take a lot of your time? Anytime a customer is taking a lot of your time, you need to write it in your script. What is my exit phrase? And then you need to play it like double dutch. Anytime you realize a customer is dragging on, you need to start doing like this in your mind. Or actually, how you do it is do the, and you have to jump in and stop the conversation. And you have to be okay with it. Especially if the customer is not your ideal client, because why are you spending time on the phone with somebody who has no intention of buying? Just saying.
Yeah, especially for people who, so you know, okay, so you know, sometimes there are customers who, and I don't know if Candace speaking about this scenario, there are customers who may actually be very good customers, but they are in a space of ambiguity. So they always calling you, they always coming to get more information. So they're taking up your time, but they're not making an actual decision. I have had customers like that. I don't know if that's the kind of customers that Candace is actually talking about. So Candace, what I do sometimes is I control my time. I may not take the call. I call them back when I'm ready to have that conversation with them, or I may WhatsApp them. I may message them and say, hey, saw your call coming in. I'll message you back. I'll message you back in a little bit. And so that when I call them technically on my time.
I like that one.
I control the conversations. I would say, hey, Jared, I missed your call. Is there anything specific that you want to discuss? How can I help? And the person said, oh, no, I was just trying to get XYZ. I said, oh, good. And so it's a little bit of control, because if they call and they say, hey, listen, I'll call them, you have some time? And I say, yes, then I'm giving them the ability to kind of move on, right? So sometimes I control my time. I would call them back, but I may not answer that first call. So in my mind, I'm preparing myself as to what I want that call, how I want that call to go, and I try to control the call from there.
And what you could do as well, because you know the outcome, like one of the things I like to do is when I call, what I actually do is actually tell them, yo, I'm between two meetings here. So let them know immediately that the time is limited.
Yeah.
And you could test it to say, right, I calling you at 8:25, 8:35 out of stop.
Yeah.
So just putting it there that way.
So
go ahead.
So something I heard from a guy by the name of Jeff Shaw a while ago, but it always stuck with me, right? So, and this is specific to follow-up calls for proposals that are already there. So before, we've been talking about making your outreach and reaching out to customers, etc., etc. But what if you already had to outreach to the customer, and you have to do a follow-up because there's a proposal or quotation outstanding, right? Mm-hmm. One of the fears or one of the reluctances that we have when making a call is we don't want to make it seem as though we're bothering the customer, because that in itself is a different type of call. But what you have to do is that you have to understand, because it's two different types of calls. The first one is at the top of the funnel. This one is in the middle of the funnel or closer to the end of the funnel. Yep. So this customer's already engaged you over a certain period of time. They've taken something from you with the intent to move forward. So there are ways of going up. So you can't be reluctant on that, because you're going to have open quotations that you need to get rid of. You need to have closure. So something that Jeff Shaw said that I always remembered, he said, it's your follow-up call. It's like, it's like an ECG. So if it is that you have, so when the customer gets the quote, the energy level with everybody is here. But after time, it dips, it begins to go down, especially if a week has passed and they're not responding. So just think of it as it's going down, it's going down, it's going down. And then it just may flatline a little bit. That flat line is like 2-3 weeks, nobody is giving you a response in terms of your proposal. Your follow-up call or your follow-up email does this. So as it begins to go down, they see you calling them, boop, it puts it back up, even if they haven't made a decision as yet. So you are extending the lifeline or the thought process of them saying, oh, shoot, I have to follow up with Lyndon. I actually did that on Monday. A customer has had some stuff outstanding for a little while, I popped into their inbox. You understand? And again, it's how you craft the email, because I made it feel as though, hey, you're a little bit obligated to give me some response as it relates to this. So again, it's all how you have to phrase up your emails based upon where you are in your sales process. So that's another area you have to focus on too.
I'll give everybody a breakdown and add to this as well. So if you're doing follow-up and it's at the closing stage, as Lyndon is mentioning, don't always, and I did this in a video earlier, don't call and say I'm following up or I'm checking in. No. Your last call should have been feedback from the customer as what the next step is in their process. So you're making a decision. Your call up is to say, Lyndon, last time we spoke, you mentioned that you guys were going to make a decision. Did you get an opportunity to do that as yet?
Right.
And especially the customer, and if a customer committed and give you a time, but stop it. Say, Lyndon, last time we spoke, you said that you'd have gotten to sit down with the management team on Tuesday to make a decision so that we'd have gotten feedback on Wednesday. Were you guys able to get that done?
Yep.
Right?
I did
the other thing, so you want to mention time in terms of when you're doing follow-up, which is like what the example I gave there. And then what you also want to do is time as in not time. You want to talk about outcome when you're doing the follow-up. So like it could sound something like this, like, hey, Lyndon, last time we spoke and the reason why we're having these conversations is that you guys wanted to achieve X and Y by this date, right? I know as every day passes, it kind of makes it a little more difficult for you to get to that. Are you still moving? Are you still interested in moving ahead so that we can get a closing date? Yep.
And here's the thing with that, right? So we're going to be adding in a little bit of complexities here. Where did Jared get that information from? From doing a very good discovery. So you don't have to pull anything out of the air just to say, hey, well, I want to see if you make a decision. No. In our discovery meeting, so I could say, hey, Jared, just following up. Well, you may not say it like that, right? But in our discussion on X date, you guys had a timeline of kicking off to achieve this by that particular timeline. We are at this particular stage now. Just want to understand exactly as to where you guys are with that, So you have to always make sure that you are tying your message back to your discovery call. That's why sometimes writing a proposal shouldn't be difficult, because you remember what the customer said. If it's difficult and you feel as though you're selling in your proposal, it's because you're not using the discovery points that you picked up when you were having that conversation. Rachel, sorry, just let me say this and you can make your point, JB. Rachel is asking a question as to any particular tips for people selling their own services. Rachel, we'll come to your thing just now. JB, if you want, you can layer your last response. Your response. You were just going to say.
What I was going to say, let me give you all a script. So this is I'm going to tell you all the conversation I'm going to have tomorrow, so you can understand what it is that you need to tell customers, right? I'm calling tomorrow and I'm going to be like, hey, Lyndon, you know what? We would have spoken 42 days ago. That's when we last left, as in we would have gotten a decision. So that means over a month has passed. And I understand the timelines that you're trying to commit and get certain things accomplished. One of your goals, coincidentally enough, is 42 days away as well. So given that I'm not hearing feedback from you all, I'm guessing one of three things. And I want to label it so that they can tell you. Right. One, you have actually decided to go in another direction and it's no longer a priority. Two, you've found somebody else to give you the service and they're no longer interested in utilizing me, which is okay. Or three, and you could say this way, I am praying it is not three because there's an impact to you, which is that you have decided to do nothing. So those responses allow you to show your cards and show your empathy as well, because you're letting the customer know, I hope nothing is the decision. And this way the customer could give you feedback and say, no, Jared, X and Y is the case. Or they might be honest and say, no, Jared, we actually decided to go in a different direction and went with somebody else. And I'm happy with that closure. Yes. Do I want the sale? Yes. But do I want an answer and closure? More yes.
Yes. Because I don't want to be, as I think in Inbound for 2020, Jared, I think the guy was talking about rocks in your bag, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Marquis.
So just think of every new proposal is like a pebble or rock in your bag, right? And you need to get closure. So if the deal is closed, you got to take it out and put it in your closed bucket. If the deal is lost, you need to take it out because that bag will be heavy. So you can't have all these proposals on your back, right? With all decisions.
Marquis was a boss on that.
That was a wicked analogy. So you wanna get closure because every rock is a decision. and you need to put it in different places. So
You have to get rid of it out of your bag, because it might be fun to have a big pipeline. By the end of the day, your back way down.
Yeah.
Because you just have all these rocks in your bag.
In your bag.
You need to get rid of them.
I don't know if I ever shared this with you all, but I remember in 2020, I was consulting with a client. We were going through their pipeline, and their pipeline had this ridiculous spike of over $2 million in it. And that was in the proposal and negotiation phase. And I was like, why is that so high? You understand? And everything else was real low. And that's because all they've been doing is shoveling out proposals and just updating the pipeline.
Yep.
To say proposal submitted on negotiation, but leaving it up to the customer to come back to them. You understand? And as I always say, if you allow a customer to make a decision by themselves, then you're more than likely they're going to make a decision without you, or they're just not going to make a decision at all. And that's what happens sometimes, because things happen in the customer's world. As Jared just gave those 3 examples, they go somewhere else, they get so busy that it's no longer priority, or they just fall off the face of the earth or something like that. So again, so that's important.
Let's dive in, because Andrea and Rachel's question. So let's go to Rachel's question. If it is any particular tip for those selling on, oh gosh, a mosquito fly my eye there, sorry. Oh geez, sorry there. Yeah, any particular tip for those selling their own services and not a product? Yes. Once you understand who your ideal client profile is and who you want to reach out to, and they have that list, then you have to understand that you're actually doing a qualifying and an interest in call to them. That's where you get over the reluctance. That allows you to create the script so you can understand that, hey, I'm calling you with regards to this purpose. Based on what your company does, I can actually help your organization. So therefore, and because I know what your business is, Rachel, I know you're doing a lot of stuff in the HR space, I'd actually reach out to organizations, and I could probably say an example is this is like, hi, I'm Rachel. The purpose of my call today is I'm actually reaching out to small businesses based in Kingston, based in Spanish Town, based in Mobe, who are in the tourism sector that actually need additional assistance with their HR services. Is this something that your organization has realized that they need assistance with or they need help with? That's your introduction, so that you could just qualify them out the gate. Right? In the case of Andrea now, Andrea is saying, so is it that the discovery, you need to get the info about how and when the decision was made? Yes.
Of course, yes, you have to.
Yes.
Yeah. Remember sorry, you go ahead, JB.
No, you go ahead.
So remember, when you're meeting with a client, it's everything is not about. So the last thing that we need to be doing in a discovery call is telling them about us. All of that conversation is everything about them. What are you looking to achieve? Why are you looking to achieve it? Why would that be important for you to achieve it by that particular time? Have you ever tried that before? How did it go? What was the outcome? What was the impact? Right? Yep. All of those things are important. And you can even go as far as asking them, what happens if you don't do it? Right? So because you want to understand, if you don't do this thing, how is it going to impact your business? That's actually a qualifier too. You understand? Yep. Because if the impact isn't that big, then chances are, even by the time you give them that proposal, they might say, I don't really need to do this now, that kind of thing. But if it's a really hard impact, then you could make sure that you are positioning your proposal or that response or your responses that speaks to the impact and the timeline as to why it's important to start this thing now. So some of the things that you like, for some of the things that you do, Andrea, you can talk about things like the penalties if you don't submit these things on time and stuff. That's a big one. You understand? So you gotta go down the lines of talking to them about the impact of, or even if it's not a matter of penalties, but the inconvenience of having to do all of this work to submit it to your account.
No, I think the penalties is big, because here's
the penalties are big. Yeah, they are big.
Just Andrea, right? If I understand, remember, when you have the detail, you would understand the revenues that they're making. The revenues allow you to figure out what's the tax and the percentages. So if you understand what's the penalties, so not actually paying your taxes or anything else related to the business that your services provide, what you actually have to describe to them is, my service is to help you avoid paying X amounts in penalties. If it is that you act, because remember, most likely in some cases, that's what they head into, even though they don't know it, right? And then what you could tell them now is that even if it is that that is one of the penalties. You could also talk about, but I'm also here to help you save this amount, because the way you're currently paying taxes, you're actually paying too much, or you're doing it in the wrong way. So your service not only helps them avoid the penalties, but helps them save additional monies. And then because they did the discovery right and they understand the business, you can actually say, right, that dollar value that you want to save, if you even say we get 50% of that, you can actually do this for your business, which goes towards the growth, or it goes towards the investment, or it goes towards probably raising the staff salaries, because they understand and they did the discovery in the business. So now
Yep.
you tie in the implication. And especially if you understand like when they decide to have their financial year and stuff, you'll be able to tie it in terms of how that benefits you for the financial year. If they're trying to get grants for loans, because a lot of businesses I met these days was trying to go through career for stuff. So like you could do all that breakdown for them in the executive summary, and when they explain it to them as to why they actually need to choose you. So
And what it
yeah,
also does, it positions you by understanding more, by talking a lot more of them and less of you. You know, so as I say,
Yeah.
in our executive summaries, we actually position things like whatever the customer's goals were. Where does that come from? In the discovery. You understand? Even if it wasn't a very in-depth in discovery, but because we understand the customer's business and the impacts, and this is again understanding your ICP, and even your ICP have some variables in it, but you understand the services of what you deliver, and if not used properly as to how these services can impact the customer, then you speak to that, because that is what the customer will be looking at in your stuff. So again, whether you use it in your content, whether you use it in your sales email, whether you use it on a phone call, those things are the important things you want to drop as your messages.
So
You know?
Fiola is asking, are we recording this? Yes. If you go back to my profile, once this is finished, you'll see the live here. It will be on my Instagram page. I will share it to the Sales is the Profession LinkedIn page, and it's our Sales is the Profession YouTube page. Now, the question is coming up now in terms of the follow-up, because I realize if this is making you all comfortable in doing the calls, great. The call reluctance is, like Fiola is asking, I would follow up in like 2 days or whatever. No, you need to be specific when you're following up, and not only in terms of day and time, but what you're following up for. You have to let the customer know that I'm calling you to get information from you.
Yeah.
So you're making them commit. And by the way, if they commit to those things, it actually lets you know how serious they are about actually doing business with you. Because
That's
if they
correct.
start to get flimsy on following up, you know they're not going on close. And by the way, folks, you should call them out on it.
Yeah.
And say, yeah. But yeah. No, I
you know, I was well. You just said it, right? So to add to Jared's point, Fiola and everybody else, right? And this doesn't it is regardless of the industry that you're in. So if I was in automotive sales, real estate, etc., we do the same thing, right? You ask questions, because again, I am taking time to put together a quotation or put together a proposal, etc., to give to you. I would normally say, so excuse me, Jared, I'm going to send this stuff over to you. What is your approximate? How long do you normally? And this, I listen. We say this in as a casual conversation, right? So I would say, okay, Jared, so I'll send this stuff over to you, as your ask is going to be covering this, and this. Again, that came from the discovery. How soon do you think that you are going to be able to read it? Right. So notice I'm asking about the decision. How soon do you think you're going to be able to read it? Or I can say that in a different way. Do you think that by Friday you'll be able to review the document? If Jared say, by Friday, but I'm not sure, maybe by Monday, cool. So I'll give you a buzz back on Monday or Tuesday so that we could discuss particular elements of said. You understand? So again, you are ending your conversation with a potential start period, right? Here's another thing that you can actually say. Jared, do you think that there might be anything that might interrupt you from reviewing that by Monday? It might have stuff to do with the kids. And he might say, nah, I think we should be good by Monday. So I am getting
Love
a
it.
commitment from him in a different way. You understand? So what you're doing, because we want to be able to follow up, and so that when you send out your email, you can talk to you on Monday. We'll sync up by 10 a.m. or 2 p.m. or whatever the agreed time was. All right? Chat soon, and you just end it from there. But again, it's all about how you want to position your questions and for that next follow-up period.
I know Fiola is asking, how would you alter that for the tourism and tourism and hospitality? What's that? I missed something?
No, sorry, just Nicholas posted as a Jedi mind trick. But
No, it's not. Listen,
It's
look at
just
us. Honestly,
how
I'm gonna tell you, yeah,
position it.
that there's not Jedi mind trick. I honestly telling you right now, being honest with you folks, that is partial frustration because what I realize we at sales are at fault because it's our job to guide the customer to a decision. If the customer is flip flopping, you need to hold their hand and say, "Stop flip flopping and come here."
Yeah.
What you wanna do? Because I want to do business with you, cool. But if you don't want to do business, not a problem. But we're not staying in this status of not knowing and not having this pebble in my back, in my backpack.
In your rock.
It is
Yeah,
not
just rock in your
happening.
bag. Yeah. For
So
real.
here's the thing. Here's a follow-up phrase that you could use, Fiola, because I know Fiola. You have to miss this Fiola, Fiola. I know there's also two different pronunciations. But this is what I use. And I gave it to a company who does similar stuff to you. And this, because I know what you do, I'm just visualizing it here for you. I'll literally say something like, "Hey, Fiola, last time we talked, you mentioned to me how stressed you were at work, even though you love your job, but you're anticipating reaching to Trinidad in the next 105 days. I was wondering if it is that, given that we spoken about 2 weeks ago, if you got an opportunity to make a decision on if our organization would be the one that will make a trip one of the most seamless, enjoyable experiences ever."
Round of applause for that one.
Simple follow-up.
Yeah.
That is it.
But again, that comes with practice, and it also comes from understanding that it's not just about. Notice what Jared did. We spoke about the outcome that the customer wants to, the experience that they want to have at a particular time. So I just following up on what you tell me,
You
I
tell
know
me
nothing wrong.
this.
You tell me this. So I
What
just
if
following
what
up with
has
you. You
changed?
understand? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Even if you want to do a hard follow-up again, because remember we talk about cost and we talk about time, I would literally say, "Hey, Fiola, I'm actually following up with you because and you can send it as a screenshot. I was just checking flights, and the cost of the flights to Trinidad have now gone up by 15%. I do not anticipate this to go down. Are you still interested in booking your flights? Let me know by end of day."
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right? And literally push and tell them that, because you need a commitment date and you're letting them know the time factor. Because what you want to pay? You want to pay $1,000 for your flight, or you want to pay $1,500?
Yeah.
That's your choice.
Keep in mind too, right? So you have so many different, and here's the thing: you have so many different angles. So sometimes, you know what I use? I might find an article. So like Jared was talking about something with the flight. That is like you can call that finding a helpful resource. So you're leading in with the resource. So your email could carry 50% discount on whatever or for you now might be the right time. So that when they see that subject line, because again, subject lines are very important when it comes to how you want to maybe make that call or send that email. So if it is even sending the email, get a nice subject line, get a nice helpful resource, and then layer what came out of the discovery and then asking the particular question. So for us, and again, Jared and I will talk about it as though we make up how to do follow-up calls, but we didn't. We've learned this over and over. There are sometimes where I'll be honest with you. Sometimes if I'm not sure exactly what I want to say, I wouldn't do it. I might put it off for the next day, right? But and I just human nature, because in
Yes,
my
it
mind
is.
I want to make sure that the objective is clear. So if I am not comfortable with what that follow-up call is, I don't want to give you all the wrong impression to say, oh no, Jared, I don't have that yet. Some days I might say, nah, I'm feeling how I want to position that. So I might sleep on it and then wake up in the next day and say, okay, this is how I want to do it. All right. So, but it comes with practice and every single time. So, like today, Jared and I were putting together something for a customer, and I was able to send Jared some notes in terms of the structure and what we were supposed to do. You know where that came from? The discovery. You understand? So we shouldn't be too concerned because the customer came to us asking for help. So I'm just following up on you based upon what you asked me for. And that's it. That's how simple
That's it.
your follow-up should be.
Right? So let me just pop up what Gail is breaking on here as an example. So you get people to expect you to follow by saying, okay, you have noted the decision should be made by September 14th. So I'll listen out to hear from you either then or a day or two later by max. If I don't hear from you by then, I'll give you a call just in case something has changed and you didn't get a chance to shout me out because you told me this project was a big priority. I don't find that still specific enough, Gail.
You know what I will do, Gail? You see the way it says, I'll listen out to hear from you? I don't put that. Here's what I say. I said, I will reach out to you within 24 to 48 hours if I don't hear from you sooner. By just switching the words around, if I don't hear from you sooner, you're going to hear from me within 24 to 48 hours. It may sound bold. Listen, sometimes when I've done training, I've heard people say to me, you could say that? yes, you
Listen,
can.
I get that all the time, Dread, and I'm telling them, listen, people want you to take, I'm telling you, customers want you to take control of
hold
the
your hand,
decision.
control it.
Remember, I was telling you about this, Lyndon, with the same customer who I have to talk to tomorrow. I realize that some companies, they have never made a decision like this before. That's why they haven't made a move, or that's why they haven't decided, because they don't know what to do next. You have to think of your customer, which is why it's important to do these calls, as your customer is blind. They don't know. They know this step in their organization, and that's it. And if they've never done a decision like this before, then they're never going to make a decision towards your product, because they need somebody to walk them through. And if you don't tell them what the next steps are, like I would even put in the email, Gail, if you guys say yes, you should actually send an email with the contract signed.
Yeah.
And just tell me what the start date is, and you can put your suggestions to the start date. If it's no, tell them I'll send back a sad crying face. But I understand, because we know what we're working with. Like, give them the option. Like, that's how well they're supposed to write it out.
Here's how simple I make it sometimes for customers. So like how Jared said, if they're saying yes, I will send a customer something, right? It might be as simple as a table, because again, I don't want to waste time with putting together proposals and stuff. So if I know, so I may ask the customer, what are some of the things that's really important to you? And if they say, well, it's the price, I'll say, okay. So then I will ask them particular questions as it relates to, like, why is it that they have that hesitation until identify certain things. I may actually just send them a breakout as to the scope of work and the price in the email. And I say, listen, this is what you're looking for. Just give me back the word approved, and then I'll send you the respective documents from there. That's how simple I want to make that for you. Just send me back an email.
Easy to make a decision.
Approved. You understand?
And by the way, and I know we're straight so far from the topic, but I know people getting help out of it. By the way, folks, that is something I highly recommend you all do. Please stop sending proposals to customers and send an email with the price and the layout and ask them if that makes sense, because you all know how long we take to do proposals. Do not spend time if the customer is not serious. Let the customer send an email, ask for a PO, and then say, right, I'll send you a proposal now, so you could just sign off for official formalities. Stop sending proposals and they don't know when they're gonna make a decision with the business, and you done spend 3-4 days of over 8 hours and sleepless nights trying to put something together that they ain't interested in making a decision on now. Just saying. And once you do that, say good.
Yeah, again, guys, Jared and I are not just saying that because we are these gurus. Everything that we do, everything that we talk about is because these are the things that we practice on a daily basis. These are the things that we learn. We have burnt hours putting together proposals and have to do follow-up and give, the customer has all the control. I want to get back some of my time, so I don't want to waste time on a proposal where I know that, this may not make sense to the customer. So I will just break out the salient points. So listen, this is what the scope of works is. This is what the price is going to be. This is the thing. These are my recommendations. You just let me know. Just put option 1, approved, and then I'll send you over the terms and conditions, and we can go forward. We can fine-tune things from there.
Listen, I tell you, I've done that for like the last 3 set of clients that I won, and it was simple. Again, trust me, folks are telling you an Excel sheet with price options and what they could get. You won't believe how fast they could get a decision back from that.
And I think the customer appreciates it too. The customer appreciates it because they're not going to look through 15 pages or 10 pages of read through this, and so just keep it simple. They want to know the price, they want to understand the scope of works, they want to know how soon they can get delivered. Then do that for them. Whatever is important to them, which comes again from the discovery, you put those salient points in there and you deliver on it.
Kareem, just popping up what Kareem Jackson is saying. Here's what he's saying: we charge for proposals, otherwise we have a menu and we have made all our prices public. Yep.
Right. Yeah, make your prices public too. I use my website now to talk about pricing with customers. So there's no ambiguity. If you want to know what it costs, it's there. I could send it to you as a thing, or we could talk about it if we're having a conversation. You understand? So again, there are many different ways that you can make your life simple and allow the customer to choose what they want.
And Gail is saying it. Yep. So after the discovery call, send an email confirming the conversation, scope of work, and cost, and tell them they can approve that info in the email right there and then. Yes. Now, mind you, you could say that, and then you could probably just send a one pager for them to sign.
Yeah.
Like,
And it makes your life simple too.
make sure you save a lot of time, Gail. Trust me, you could.
It's
That
easier for
could
the customer.
think about if you spend 2-3 days doing a proposal, you would want to run away from this. Anyway,
Yeah.
here's my last point of how to get over call reluctance. And by the way, folks, let us know, tell us a why or a no if we helped you all overcome it. Because I know we kind of straight from the topic, but this is my last point. And Lyndon alluded to it a bit. Do your core if you're core reluctant, do it in smaller chunks. Even if you have to do 1 hour, like again, like the client who I was talking about, they had to make 200 calls. I could see how that could be daunting. Whereas if you did only 10 calls a day, in 20 days you would have it covered, which means in 1 month you would have followed up with everybody, which I think is still good.
Yeah. And I want us to be real practical with that too, right? And I like how Jared broke that down, because I'll give you an example of a stupid situation that I had with a sales rep at one point in time, right? This person was pushing back on making, let's say, 80 calls a week or whatever it is, or 150 calls a week. I can't remember what the number was, but it was anywhere between 150 and 80. And I had to break it down for him, right? Because he was like, oh, we can't make that thing, whatever. And I just worked it back. So I broke down the target number of calls or emails that they had to make. I broke it into 5 days. I broke the 5 days into 8 hours. I broke the 8 hours. And when we broke it down, it came out to 2 calls an hour. So you trying to tell me you can't make 2 calls an hour? But you see, so don't look at the whole elephant, right? And use that as a reluctance. For him, that sales rep, his reluctance was thinking he had to make all of these calls, and he wasn't very good at it. When I simplified it, we all did simplification in school. When I simplified it, it made sense. Like, okay, yeah, I could do. So then he was like, I think I'm being asked for that, right? I could make 2 calls.
2 calls? I should know. I can't make 2 calls.
You understand? So, and again, what you tend to find happening is that 2 calls turn into 5 calls, 5 calls turn into 10 calls, because you build a momentum. You got to realize, yeah, I can afford to do 2 calls. And those 2 calls could turn into money for you. So then that 1 call could be whatever that commission is. Work it backwards, because you're doing it for sales, right?
But let me bring up this one, right? Syed is making a mistake. Syed is saying this on Instagram. He's saying, based on our point, that's if you sell on price, because I sell on value, but I have a generic CVP for whatever category the customer falls into after the discovery. Right. So there is a pricing. So send that to them after the discovery. But if you have done your discovery right, you don't have to sell on price. The customer automatically understand the value. You can mention the price at any point in time, If you've done your discovery right, you're good. But I won't hide it. That's just me. That'll make sense. And by the way, I used to be like this in his last sentence, saying I stay away from pricing any convo in the initial meeting and discovery process. Nope. I give a price range.
Yeah.
Because you might waste time having that conversation and they absolutely have no budget, or you cannot offer them what it is based on the price point. So trust me, even after the conversation, they could say, listen, don't hold me to this. I'm going to just share estimates. It could be between this and this, because the client, I spoke to a client Tuesday. They were asking for what might be the estimate. And I just said, it's under this figure, but I'll need to actually give you the specifics on Friday when I send you the email, which is just an email of what the scope of works is, and that's it. I know it's going to come under the figure.
Yeah.
I just couldn't get them the exact amount.
Yeah.
So that's just me.
I would just want to end with shouting out somebody, which is Candace Greenwich. So Candace Greenwich says, no call reluctance from her, right? If anything, she calls too much. And I had the privilege of working with Candace last year. She supported me on a project, and when it comes to calls, and the service and stuff that Candace delivered, because Candace helped me deliver at a high level. So Candace, they could take some notes from you in terms of making calls.
If you need somebody to make calls, you call Candace.
Yeah. Candace is the bomb on that, and I really did appreciate that.
Yep. So trust me. And then Roger, thanks so much for the contributions tonight, Roger and Gail, Kareem. My calls are dependent on my appointment goal. I stopped making calls after I hit my minimum appointment goal or time allotted for calls. Yeah, I like the time allotted for calls factor, because you have, in sales, we have other stuff to do. So if you made your calls, whether they were successful, okay, average, make the stop. Because trust me, something which Amali was talking about, Lyndon, she was mentioning the fact that in her coaching, the top reps actually encourage them to take like breaks after 25 minutes,
Yeah, no,
not
you
even
have
an
to.
hour.
Yeah. You have
So
to.
yeah,
You have to.
right. And Gail is saying, yes, she talks price early, so I need to know if I could get paid even more importantly on time. Yep.
Yep.
Kareem is saying, marketing, and branding. They need to call you, ask you, forget sales. Nope.
I
Nothing
don't
happens until
understand.
a sale is made. I don't understand that one, Kareem.
I don't understand.
You need to get a little more clear on that. I don't know
Yeah.
about marketing.
Unless he's talking about, I wouldn't even throw in the brand in there. I don't think that's 100% necessary. Your marketing supports a sale. So let me put it to you like this, Kareem. So this is one thing that I always say, and it happens often. Almost every week now, it's proven to me, right? So we have a lot of people who are using social platforms now to bring leads in, but they can't close the leads. So some people don't understand how to qualify the customer properly. So the leads are coming in. So yes, you're getting the inbound through marketing, but the sales team not converting. So no, not marketing does their part, but the sales team is still really responsible for creating that conversion unless you have some sort of online thing that you're delivering where people just buy online. But we don't have Amazon.
Well,
We don't. Not everybody has an Amazon business kind of thing here. So
correct. And depending on the service, so I'll actually bring up a video. So yes, so Kareem, you're correct to an extent because John Barrows mentioned this. Depending on the value of the product or service that you're offering, it cannot be automated, as in it's just marketing, it goes through a sales funnel and it's sold without the presence of a sales rep.
Of a sales rep, yeah.
Right? So like the higher the value, because Syed has mentioned it as well, the higher the value, the more sales rep actually has to be in the process in order to guide the customer to the right decision.
Yeah.
So it can't just be marketing alone. So
that's why you see it on websites, right? You will see freemium, then you'll see starter, then you'll see venti, then you'll see talk to sales.
Yep.
You understand? So
no,
yes,
and look, Kareem is saying it. I agree, Kareem. Great marketing creates great leads, but if sales can't close it,
nothing happening.
Yeah. And by the way, the reason why I want sales to be good, especially in this case, because if you do a great job at marketing and great lead, but sales can't close it, the customer is going to find a competitor who can explain it but does zero marketing.
Yeah.
Oh, last point. Sorry. The reason why I want to make the calls and get over the reluctance, in a lot of cases, folks, just remember this. The contacts and the leads that you have are not exclusive to you. Your competitors have it. Your colleagues have it. And if you don't call, somebody eventually will. And when they reach out to people, they say, no, somebody reached out to me with that already. Why? Because you hesitated to make the call. Yeah. That's my last point. I've done it for the night.
I definitely have to make that, JB, I have to make that my last point because I'm on 90% battery.
Yes.
But I really did
thank you so much, folks. I really loved it. Yeah. Candice, Kareem, thank you so much, Kareem. Gail, of course, Richard. Gail is not this week. The week of the 26th is when I'm coming across in Barbados for work. Right?
Roger,
Tajmal, Fayola,
Sayad,
Trisha, Andrea,
Thomas Henry,
Rachel Martinez, everybody. Thank you so much.
You guys so much.
Yeah. And if you want to see the replay, it's on my profile. You'll see it there immediately after. Just go to my profile, look at the activity under post. You'll see the live there, folks. Have a good one.
Peace.